So here we are. Let's talk St. Patrick's Day. I sent you guys the recipes, and I was excited to do these. Sorry, I'm grabbing my recipes. I was excited to do these with you because I am of partial Irish descent. I'm not a corned beef and cabbage girl. I don't like boiled meat. It's just not for me. And so a couple of years ago for Katie Kirk's website, I did this brisket with roasted cabbage and root vegetables, and it was so good. And so I do love brisket, which is the same cut that you use. I just prefer to either cook it on my grill or cook it in the oven. And so today I wanted to cook it ahead in my oven for you because it took me about, let's see, it took me about, what time is it? It's 5 o'clock. I started at like 12:40. So it took me a while, right? It took me a little over 4 hours for it to get super soft. So I'm going to talk you through that process and what I did. And then we're going to talk about some alternative ways to make a beef and cabbage and potato recipe if you'd like, or roasted veggies. So some fun riffs on it if you still want to be in the St. Patrick's Day spirit, but you'd like to try something different. Okay, so for fun, we're going to roast these cabbage leaves just as whole leaves, and I'm going to show you how delicious they get. They're so yummy. And then we're going to do Hasselback potatoes. Have I ever done Hasselback potatoes with you guys? We're going to cut them into these little slits, and so they fan open like a little accordion, and we're going to bake them. And so they're beautiful. And if you want, you can put little herbs in between. I think I've taught you these before, but we're going to do those. So like if you wanted to do potatoes, the Irish in particular, there are so many ways you can do them, like Colcannon potatoes, if you've ever had those. But this is just such a fun little trick. So if you've never done it with me, we'll do that, okay? So we're going to roast some other veggies. I'm going to show you how I did the brisket, and I'll slice it and show you that as well. But why don't we start by getting these potatoes in the oven? And then I'm also going to take the lid off of, let me show you the brisket right now, because in the recipe, it says I'll show you what I did differently. I put it in a roasting pan. I didn't cover it with foil. I was out of foil, so I just used a pan with a lid on it. And that's about how long it took. It took about 4 hours, yeah. And then I put the veggies around it already and roasted those. And so let's do this. I'm going to show you the whole thing, and then I'm going to take the meat out of it and let it rest before we slice it. And again, please forgive my yawning. We know that's chronic anyhow. But, okay, I'm going to turn this towards the meat, I promise. So here we go. Let me put it up towards the camera. This was about 3 pounds of brisket. It's funny how it really does shrink up, But basically, I cooked it for about 3.5 hours on its own, and then I added the vegetables in. What I did not do is take the lid off after the vegetables were cooked to brown them up some more. That is something that's totally up to you if you want to do that. But let me get some tongs and put this on a sheet so we can let it, sorry, it's still hot. We can let that meat roast before we slice it, okay? But I'm going to talk about different ways to serve the meat. If you wanted to serve it with like a barbecue sauce, it's delicious. If you cook for Jewish holidays, that's a common thing to do. And of course, in the barbecue world, that's a common thing to do as well. But I'm just going to let these veggies kind of soak up the juices from the brisket, okay? So we'll let that rest, and we'll talk about this after we get the Hasselback potatoes in the oven. But let me show you how to do Hasselback potatoes first, because they're super fun, friends. And since some of my favorites are on here, if you have any cooking questions, please feel free to ask me, okay? I've missed you all. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get a piece of parchment out. You know how I love my parchment. And I'm going to use a tiny little roasting pan for these potatoes. Sheet pan. Okay, so I put this on here. But what I want to show you first, and I'll probably I'll put these two in the oven because this one's quite a bit larger, right? They look like Mama, Baby, and Papa Bear. 3 little mice, don't they? I'm going to do these. So we're going to roast those. Let me rinse them off. And then, oops, I dropped one. These are pretty clean, but I want to show you a super fun hack for doing Hasselback potatoes. Where did I put my chopsticks? I know I got them out already. I worked ahead. even in my silly little brain, here they are. Ta-da! If you guys could see. I mean, it's not that off brand for me to be disorganized and with my brain a little fuzzy, but it's extra fuzzy today. You've missed me, Holly. Holly, oh my gosh. I don't know if I shipped your loaf pan yet. Oh my God. I think it's in my trunk. I'm the worst person ever. I have to send you an extra gift with your loaf pan. Yours is the only one. I went to ship it and they told me they were going to charge me like $57 from the UPS store. And it was a new person working there and I knew it was insane. And then I went back in and it was the same girl working and she said it was $57 again. So I have to take it to the post office. She's wrong, but I didn't know how to say that without insulting her. There was somebody else working there and I was like, this can't be right. But she didn't believe me. And so, yes, you get an extra prize for your patience. No, it was totally ridiculous. And the post office is like a block from there. I just like the UPS store. I have a PO box there. Okay. Okay, Hasselback potatoes. Here is a cute little potato. You can use Yukon Gold, you can use russets, you can do this with a sweet potato. And I think I've done it with a sweet potato with you guys before too. But what we want to do is we want to cut little slits in it without cutting all the way through the bottom, right? So you don't have to use my little cheater thing. You can just take your knife and you want to cut as close down to the bottom as possible without cutting all the way through. But then I'm going to do one without my cheater way with chopsticks and one with, and you can decide what you think is a better method, okay? Obviously, because it rounds up, sorry, as it comes up here, you're going to have to make a slice that's not quite as deep, right? Otherwise, you'll cut all the way through the potato. If you cut all the way through, it's not the end of the world. Basically, this is just a fun little trick anyhow. And if you have fresh herbs, you can put herbs in between the slices. Okay. So can you guys see this up close? Like they've got all these little cuts. And what's going to happen is that when I'm going to actually cut this a little deeper, is when it roasts, they're going to open up a little bit and it's going to be like a little fan. And it's just a fancy little way to get these cute little potato slices. I just want to make sure that they're cooked through or that I've cut down enough on them. Okay. All right. So I'm going to put that one aside. We'll put the oil on it in just a second. And actually, I'm going to cut a little bit off the bottom just to stabilize it. Then it's not going to roll around. You know how I hate that. Okay, let me show you my other fun little hack that my friend Merritt and I like to do. She found this trick somewhere, is that you use chopsticks at the bottom as your guide. So you can cut all the way down and the chopsticks will stop your knife, right? So the problem is that you need kind of another person to hold these because you got to hold your potato. So this is one of those hacks that might not be that helpful in the long run. Plus, well, you're going to see what it does. So you hit the chopstick, right? Oops. But sometimes the potato doesn't fit the chopstick that well and it goes all the way through. So this might be a silly, silly hack. But if you have really big potatoes, this works well. You could also rubber band these two chopsticks together. That's probably the smarter thing to do. That is You can see this isn't the perfect hack. But what you get with this is that you get slices that go closer to the bottom, right? So it's a deeper slice and the chopstick will stop it. But sometimes when the potato comes up on the side, it just cuts it all the way off. So I'm going to just do it my way for the rest of the way. Actually, let's cut the bottom off right now so it's stable. Nobody likes an unstable potato, am I right? You guys, when I was teaching in Bali, my friend Haley, who did the retreat with me, asked me if I did stand-up comedy. And I thought she was kidding. And she's like, no, I'm not kidding. We think you're funny. And I swear, I think that's the best compliment I've ever gotten. But I think it's because like when you teach like this, you have to make conversation with people, right? And so it killed me. And I told her, I was like, oh, I like that compliment way too much. And my kids didn't believe her. They said that they thought I was lying to them. Good old kids. Okay. So can you see these cute little slices? but it's still intact in the bottom. If you happen to cut all the way through, you can put a little toothpick through it, okay? I have a feeling, is anybody else losing it? KQ, we've had so many issues in wellness as well, like with needing to reboot and stuff. I don't see anything wrong on my end. Yeah, it's just like everyone seems to have problems with Crowdcast. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep using Crowdcast, guys. It seems to drop a lot. Okay, I'm going to get a little oil and I'm going to show you one more thing, okay? Before we put these in the oven. I'm going to get a pastry brush. Now, the thing about this, and I'm just going to pour some oil over the top right now, and we're going to work with that oil because you want to get it in between the little slices. Obviously, when it opens up, it's a lot easier to do that, right? So I'm just going to brush the whole outside first. And then in the slices where you can open them up a little bit, I just like to use a pastry brush to kind of brush in there, right? Yep. It'll get, like I said, once they start to bake, we can take them out and we'll make sure that we get all the yummy stuff on the inside. The other thing that's super fun to do is to place herbs or leaves in between these things. So you could do rosemary sprigs, you could do bay leaves, and you layer them in and it's absolutely gorgeous. And then the potatoes are infused with those flavors, right? Right now though, I'm just gonna do a little salt. Let's sprinkle generously. And then I'm even going to sprinkle on the bottom and sides. And then when they open up a little bit, we'll brush a little bit more oil in the slices, okay? I don't know why I think these are adorable. This is like, I think I like to play with my food. Okay, so into the oven they go at 400 or 425. What does it say? Let's check my recipe. I think it's 425. 425, what do you know? And it says for an hour or 50 to 60 minutes until they're brown on the outside and tender in the center. Let's see how long they really take, shall we? They're so cute. In you go. Let's set the timer. I'm going to set it for 40. And then back, I'm going to change the temperature to 425. And then, all right, let me just rinse my hands, folks. And we're all set. Okay, we're not going to need these other things. I over-chopped for class, but I am going to talk about one other way you can do meat and potatoes. Okay, let me put that one over there. All right, so let's talk about the brisket. I'll move this back to my face for a little bit while we chat so you're not talking to a cutting board. So brisket, I absolutely love this cut. It's a super tough cut, right? And so like many meats that have to be slow cooked to break down the muscle fibers, right? So you can't make brisket and like sear it and have it be done. It takes a lot of time. And people who do it on the grill like to do it low and slow and slow cook it. And they usually like to smoke it too and get it to a certain internal temperature. And then you wrap it up. So it's got all the smoke flavor in it already. And then you basically cook it in butcher paper for the end. So it steams, right, with the juices, but you still have that smoky taste. So that's a beautiful way to do it on the grill. I know not everybody grills all the time, and I'm not grilling as much either these days. I sneeze every time I go outside. So I find myself cooking more indoors than ever now. And so I did this whole thing in the oven. So let me bring it over and I'm going to take you through it. Okay, this was covered the whole time. But I made a couple changes to my own recipe and I want to show you what I did. My children keep trying to get a hold of me and I just want to make sure they're okay. So this is a 3-pound piece of brisket. and it has what we call a fat cap on it, right? Like one side has more fat on it. You find that on lamb too, on racks of lamb. You find it on many cuts of food, right? That there's a thicker piece of fat on one side. That's what I consider the, a lot of times they'll say cook it fat side up, right? So I made a little seasoning rub. I was just messing around with different flavors, and you can do that, or you can use salt and pepper. You can use a rub blend that you already have. It's totally up to you. And I give you one right here. So this one calls for paprika, kosher salt, cumin, garlic, coriander, black pepper. This time I tried, I used cumin, paprika, salt, pepper, a little bit of coconut sugar, because I like the flavor. You could use brown sugar if you want. I've just had coconut sugar on hand because of my no sugar thing. The thing you want to be careful of is it browns things really quickly, right? And you can certainly season it and let it sit in the fridge overnight. In this recipe, I tell you, you can cheat it and just let it sit out for an hour before you roast it, okay? So the other thing I did is that in the recipe that I've provided, it's kind of like the fastest way to make brisket. You put it straight in here and you start to cook it, and then you add some stock to the pan, and then eventually you add some vegetables and you're good to go. I just wanted to brown the top side of it first. So I browned this in a pan, and then I flipped it over and I put it in the oven. And to be honest with you, I just don't think it adds that much flavor, that much more flavor. I was just messing around for kicks today. And especially since I'm removing the fatty part, I don't think it's worth doing that step, but I just wanted to prove it to myself, okay? So anyhow, I put this in the pan, let it cook, added a little bit of stock, and let it cook for like 3 hours. And then I added the, it was very tender. It was like sliceable before I added the vegetables. And then I just added quartered red onions, some potatoes, like one big yellow potato and a whole carrot in here. You could certainly add cabbage. I had already sliced the cabbage up to show you this other recipe. So it's just whatever you like, right? And then you can continue to cook those for like 30 to 45 minutes until they're fork tender. And they're perfect. And the thing is, if you want them to get brown and crispy, you can even take the meat out at the end and let them rest, and then let them crisp up with the lid off, right? So I didn't really season this with anything except the seasoning, because a couple of things you can do. You can do the chimichurri that I gave you to go with it. You could serve it with horseradish cream, but it's great, like I said, with barbecue sauce too. So my mom used to just drench it in barbecue sauce. And I know I have a couple homemade barbecue sauce recipes on my website, I think, and in my cookbooks. Or you can just pick your favorite barbecue sauce if that's your thing, right? So if I were going to use barbecue sauce, I would just, right before it's done, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes before, I would just slather this in barbecue sauce in the juices so that the sauce goes into the juice too, and it's not too sweet. So that's a delicious way to serve it. And you can serve it with more barbecue sauce on the side if you'd like, okay? But let's slice this and let me show you how tender it is. Again, if you wanted cabbage to be in it as well, you could certainly do that. I've let this rest for as long as I've been talking. Now, what knife do I want? I want my slicing knife. And I also want my tongs to hold it while I slice. Okay. You guys, while I'm doing this, tell me, has anybody been watching TV? I watched so much television on the plane, and I watched so many movies. I can't even think right now. I watched so much. I'm going to slice a little of this fat cap off already. Some people love this in the world of barbecue, and they take the ends and the fatty pieces and they cook them again, drenched in barbecue sauce, and they call them burnt ends. It's not my thing. But you can see the grain of the meat is going this direction, right? So I'm going to cut against it like I always do. And this should honestly, it's so tender. If you can't slice through it easily, you need to give it more time, right? But this is so tender, I can get like super thin slices of it. Wow. Delish. Delish. My knife could be a little bit sharper, but see how I'm pulling back the skin? That means that it wasn't worth me to go through all the trouble of browning it first. I think that when you leave this fat on though, fat equals flavor and it helps keep the meat juicy and moist. And some people do want a little bit of fat on each slice, and that's fine too. You can certainly keep it. It's like crust, you know, there's no shame in it. But this is really thinly sliced. And then you can put it back in its juices if you want to serve it. You could also, yeah, I kind of like putting it back in the pan juices because it keeps it juicy. If you take it to the table that way, or you put it on a platter that's got a ledge on it, and you put the veggies around it, and then you pour the juices over it again. Yes, I just ate that. Delish. I wonder if, well, you know how I feel about having extra pans. I might just use, look at what I'm going to do. I'm going to pour the veggies out, and I'm going to, clearly I would have typically washed this, right? Or it wouldn't be so crusty up the sides. But for what I'm doing, I want to show you how I'm going to serve it. I'm just eating as I go. That needs salt. Big time. But this brisket, you guys, is so delicious when it's chilled, and then you can reheat it and make sandwiches with it. I'm just going to go ahead and keep slicing it because then it's ready to go for anyone who wants to eat it. I have to cook for like 50 people next week. I should make another brisket, but on the barbecue. I can feel how fatty certain ends have more fat on them. It's just the shape of the cut. Yeah, this is the test they do when in barbecue though, they squeeze it to show how juicy their brisket is. It's kind of gross, but it's kind of fun. You can see I'm having to put a little more pressure on my knife than I typically like to. That means my knife needs sharpening. Or in some cases, it means my brisket wasn't done, but this is done. Okay, so look what I'm going to do here. I'm going to get rid of that. That's all fat, actually. Nobody wants that in my house. But the rest of the pieces, I'm going to just layer back in. And this is where, if you were using barbecue sauce too, you could certainly, woo, it can be delish. You could certainly pour the barbecue sauce off over it here. And if any of it is shredded like it is on this cutting board, you can leave that and people can use that for sandwiches or for like a hash. Oh my gosh, so good with potatoes. But then let's just surround it with the vegetables. And, excuse me, more stuff going in the garbage. Let's put the veggies back around it and pour the juices back over it. And then I'll show you how we're going to finish it. Again, if I were doing the chimichurri sauce that I put in your recipe deck, you could drizzle some over it, or you could just choose to serve it on the side. You can do whatever you like. But I'm using this just to show you guys, but typically I would use a platter, right? So that the meat is kind of up higher and you can surround it with the veggies. But this way I poured all the juices over it already. And you could garnish it with any herb that you like. If you want parsley, that would be delicious. If you want to do horseradish cream, it would be great with parsley on it too. You could hit it with some really yummy, Crowdcast. I think I'm going to have to switch to Instagram, you guys. It just stinks. I'm sorry to hear that. Does it tell you you need to update Crowdcast or something? I'm sorry. Well, we'll save the recording for you as always, right? Anyhow, this would be great with chunks of flake salt on it that don't melt as easily. Absolutely delicious, but also absolutely delicious to reheat or use for sandwiches, okay? So slow, slow, slow is all you need to know. And if you can't easily slice through the brisket, it needs to cook longer. That's the most important part. It's like pot roast that way, right? If you can't cut into it easily, it's just not done cooking. I just have to have one more little bite. You guys won't tell anybody, will you? Nobody actually cares. Okay, so pot roast. And these veggies, all right? Now, while the potatoes continue to cook, I want to show you another quick cabbage recipe. So if you give me a second, I'm going to clear this off, and then I'm going to show you what I do for cabbage, which is fun. still singing Taylor Swift. Yum. Alrighty, I'll be right there, guys. Bear with me. Getting a clean cutting board for us. It was so hot in Bali, you guys. It was like 90, 95 with the same amount of humidity. And I taught outside. Let's just say I was challenged. I broke out in this heat rash on day one. It's still pretty red on my neck. And it turns out that was part of the problem with trying to fight off this infection in my body. And so I looked like a monster, as my child told me when I got home. And so I was sweating, and I said it looked like I'd been interrogated, like that I'd murdered someone, and I was lying about it. That's how badly I was sweating. It was pretty funny. And so they kept trying to take videos to use at the resort to show people, like, come and do a retreat in sunshine. I was soaking wet the entire time. It was pretty hilarious. Not the best advertisement for the weather, but some people do great in the heat, and everybody's skin looked amazing. But my body didn't like the heat. It doesn't do well in heat. I think I meant to live in colder climates, but we're all different, right? Okay, look what I've done. I've just taken one more baking sheet and I have lined it with parchment paper, my favorite trick ever. And then I want to show you what I'm going to do with some cabbage. This is iced coffee with a little bit of a coconut milk blend that I made. So I, again, was hitting my wall and I was like, I'm going to try to stay awake and not take a nap today. This should keep me up. Okay, so we have a green cabbage and I have a red cabbage. This is a green cabbage that I just cut. I'll show you what I did by showing you on the red cabbage. I just did this. You can do a couple of things. I just took the core out and I started peeling the leaves back, but you can also cut it in half and do it that way if you prefer, because you need a tiny knife. You need a paring knife for this if you want to get a good grip on it. And cabbage is almost like, it's not as bad by any means as butternut squash, but you got to be really careful because it's really tough to cut into and you don't want to hurt yourself with your knife. So actually, I could even use a smaller knife than this. This is a 4-inch paring. I should have a 3-inch paring. I'm just trying to kind of carve out the core. Oh, got it. Okay. So I just carved out the core and then you can start peeling off the leaves. This red cabbage is even thicker than the green cabbage leaves. So you can start peeling them off if you want to leave them whole. If not, you can cut them in half. Erna, the question is, are you back? Were you able to come back? So these are big, big honking leaves of cabbage. And we're going to do both green and red together because I think it'll be pretty. You see, they're like stubborn. I'm pulling against my body to make them cut off, but they're not really ripping. They're not being torn apart when I do it, so they stay whole and pretty. They keep their integrity, as we say. More than they should, right? If you cut them in half and you just remove the core, they're just smaller. But these are gonna, like so many other things, are gonna kind of melt down and wilt. So I just want to show you what they look like when we do that. One sec. Okay. So here are some of the green cabbage leaves I already have. You guys are making such a mess. It's so fun. And I'm just going to put these on the sheet pan, okay? This is a half a head of cabbage right here, the green cabbage. I ate the other half last night. And then let's just throw on some red leaves, which are, like I said, a little bit sturdier. They're like a thicker leaf almost. But the thing about leaving them whole or just ripping them yourself, it's kind of a really fun rustic presentation. And all we're going to do, I think this is a Molly Baz, is that her last name? Who works, or Baz, who works at Bon Appetit. This is a recipe of hers. And I think it comes with like a roasted rack of lamb. And my friend Isaiah made it. And once he showed me how to do it during COVID, I was doing it all the time. It's like it takes cabbage from being stinky. This is like what I think about broccoli and cauliflower when you roast it. It turns it into something magical that you didn't even know you needed in your life. And then suddenly it's perfection. So let me show you what we're going to do. We're just going to take a little bit of oil. And in this case, I have avocado oil in front of me, and that's fine. Typically, I would use olive and salt, right? It's probably more than we need, but what we're going to try to do is like coat all of the leaves, right? You want to get the oil all over it. And then we're going to put it in the oven while those potatoes cook at 425. And it's going to get really crispy and wilted and gorgeous. It's going to cook down, but then crisp up. And you know what we can do always? So I'm going to toss it with my hands right now because we're trying to coat it all. If it's not perfectly coated, don't sweat it. The parts that aren't coated with the oil are going to blacken more though. So we're going to just, isn't it pretty? So vibrant. You guys, I made some new friends on our retreat as well. And one, she Googled retreats in Bali, yoga and cooking. And she found my my retreat called the Vibrant Life Retreat, and her Instagram handle is Vibrant Valeria. Isn't that crazy? So she found it and she was like, oh, it's meant to be. Turns out we have tons of mutual friends. It's so bizarre. And she works for a restaurant group that I'm visiting in New York in a couple of weeks. It's just such a strange small world, isn't it? Okay, a little more salt. You guys know how I feel about pepper. I don't need it on everything. If I want it, I'll put it on after. But we're going to take this. Let's just memorize what this looks like. In fact, I'm going to take a picture of it on my phone so we can really see what it looks like before it goes in the oven and after. Let's do that. We're so fun like that, aren't we? This is just gorgeous. Oh yeah, so I was saying, you guys, Taylor Swift, for those of you who've been to the concert, she sings for 3 hours and 40 minutes. And I was like, could I even walk for 3 hours and 40 minutes? So I'm going to take her set list and I'm going to go for a walk. And I'm going to see if I can walk as long as she runs around on a stage and sings and performs. She said she trained by running 6 miles a day and singing the entire time, which is probably the equivalent of what she did. Okay, in it goes. Oh, this is perfect. 20 minutes until I check those little potatoes, which are looking so cute. So that's so great. Have we confirmed, did Erna get to come back or not? Is it behaving for you, my friend? Were you able to log out and log back in? There's nothing more frustrating than a bad crowdcast session, right? It is very frustrating. So thanks for your patience, everybody. I keep joking, we get what we pay for, right? If I charged a lot more, I'd be very angry. All right, we're gonna put that aside for right now. And then, would you like to learn one more alternative way to cook meat and potatoes and cabbage? Would that be fun? Or do any of you have questions about what we're cooking so far? You're here, no sound, that's just crazy. I'm sorry. Whole thing just gets old. Do they have any volume buttons that you can mess with at the bottom? It's crazy, isn't it? I'm sorry about that. Okay, anybody, if you're there and you want me to show you how to make another pot roast, it's different in that all I wanted to do, I've taught you all this recipe before, and it's in a couple of my cookbooks, I think. My friend Tori calls it stracotto, which is Italian pot roast. And all you do is you take, oh great, I'll show you another recipe. All we're gonna do is we're gonna take pot roast, so chuck roast, we're gonna cut it into big chunks. We're gonna put it into a Le Creuset pot in chunks with some olive oil and salt, and you can put sliced onions in there, right? And you put the lid on and it steams it, which is what we want it to do. And it makes it shreddable and easy. You don't touch it one time while it's in the oven, not once. You just leave it with the lid on. It's the most forgiving recipe. But I thought what would be fun is to add some other ingredients. So it'd be like a St. Patrick's Day version, right? So let me get the pot roast out. We're gonna have meat for days. And then I have my onions. I'm just looking for other things I want to go with it. How much of this did I get? 4 pounds. The thing is, this is very well marbled. Yay, sound. And so I might have to trim it a lot. Okay, here's what we're looking at, 4 pounds, right? I'm gonna move the board down. So I love this recipe because brisket is expensive. It's not always easy to find. If you're traditional and you want to make brisket, great. But if your family likes pot roast, or if you like pot roast, this is such an easy recipe. I love teaching it because I kind of feel like everybody needs to know how easy it can be. And this is a less expensive cut. So this was how much per pound? $9.99 a pound. I think the brisket was $12.99 or $13.99 a pound. Okay. Let me just get a stock pot that's the right size. I want my smallest stock pot for this because you want it to be compact. So I'm getting, this is a 5-quart or 4-quart. Let's see. The size 24. I can't remember what that equates to. Thank you, Diana. Nice to see you. Are you not in Hawaii? I saw some of your plans in Hawaii. Okay, you guys, I've literally used every knife in my kitchen except 3. So let me clean my slicer, and that's what I'm going to use again. They're all in my sink. Dangerous. Okay. So all we're going to do for this, I'm going to show you some different alternatives that are gorgeous. Because meat can look pretty boring, right? But I've got some really pretty produce to do with these. So I'm going to cut this normally. Well, let me show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to cut this into, and yes, the string is on it. I'm just going to remove that. Don't worry about it, okay? There's a little bit more string on this. This was like a funny shaped piece to start. All we're trying to do is get a couple big chunks that are about the same size so they fit in the pan well, right? But I think that this is too much fat for me, so I'm going to cut out some of this fat. Now, the thing is, when it cooks, a lot of this fat is going to be rendered and it'll come to the top of the pan anyhow. So if you let it cool, then you can skim off the fat, right? So we want some, because you want the meat to cook in some fat. But since this is so beautifully marbled anyhow, like, can you see those streaks, right? We don't need a lot of this other fat. It's kind of, there is a limit to how much you actually need. And I think I hit mine. So I'm trying to keep it without removing too much of the meat, right? My knives definitely need sharpening. I cut a little bit of this part off on the edge because it's not, it's more like silver skin, which is not tasty. You guys, what we did in Bali too, which was so fun, my friend said, I want to learn how to cook in banana leaves. And I was like, oh, cool. So I asked the chef there, can we get banana leaves? He's like, yeah, walk out back. I mean, they're literally everywhere. It was hilarious. Trees with like 100-foot, like 25-foot leaves on it, which was so fun. It's like cooking. It's like nature's parchment paper, It was great. Okay. And we will definitely be planning more retreats. I think we're going to go back to Bali in 2 years, but we're going to switch it up. And every year we'll do a different international spot. And then we'll try to do one in the US as well. That's a shorter 4 to 5 day situation at a different time of year. Okay, I'm still carving away at this excess fat. This piece is kind of shot actually because it's more fat than anything. But these pieces look good. Let me just get that string off of it. You could take a little of this fat off. You guys see that? I'll show you what I'm cutting into. But again, like if you want, you can leave more fat on than not and just remove it once it's cooked, because once it's cooked, it's really easy to separate it, right? It's just you're going to have a lot of fat in the top of the pan. And again, like this is just a little too much for my taste. I hate it when it's like you cook it and you realize there's no meat left and it's all fat. I'd rather kind of know that up front, right? And then this is just the tiniest piece of meat left. Don't worry if you've got some really tiny pieces, you guys. We're going to bury those and they're going to stay in their juices and be just delicious. Okay. If I were fun, I would render this fat and make you a candle, but I'm not that fun tonight or in March, maybe in December. Okay. So here's what we're going to do. Oh, we could start with a bed of onions actually on the bottom, which is absolutely delicious. I can't stop cutting fat off of this. This was just a really fatty piece. Okay, so let's put some onions down there. And I'm going to use my OXO cutter. And because the onions are going to be with the raw meat, I'm not going to worry right now about cross-contamination because it's all going to cook together. So don't flip out when you see me use the same cutting board. Worst things could happen, but all of this food is going to get cooked together, right? So I'm going to cut a yellow onion. You could certainly use red. And then I'm going to take the skin off of it. And you could hand slice this into half moons. I would still cut it in half first, right? I'm going to have to take a whole piece off. And then that's hilarious that you can watch this on your phone with Crowdcast. That's good news, KQ. Are you guys on a break? No, your kids are grown. It's not spring break. I'm like, wait, what month are we? Where are we? When are we? It's all a blur. And I'm going on 2 different trips with my kids for spring break. We each get a little one-on-one time. So I'm super confused about spring break this year. Although next year, I'm trying to convince my younger son to go to college with his brother so that they can have the same spring break and winter schedules. We can all travel together. I'm like, it would be so nice to have you on the same calendar. We'll see. He got into where his brother goes to school, but he's still waiting to hear from some other places. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to get my little slicer out, my slicer dicer, and we're going to slice up these onions. And then where's the little safeguard is what I want to know. Where have I put it now, friends? Did I already wash it? Probably. Nope. Oh, here it is. All right, so on it goes, right? We're going to just do this. I'm telling you, this thing saves lives. They had a mandolin at the resort, and I refused to let my students use it. And even the chefs there said, yeah, we cut ourselves all the time. Oh, that's so fun. Okay, in the onions go. I'll show you what I'm doing. I just put them into the pot. So they're going to be like a base layer, right? And then we're going to sprinkle them with salt. They're just going to melt down and get ooey gooey delicious. But the onions, it's great if they just continue to melt and melt and melt. With the other vegetables, we would put them in with more like 45 minutes left. So you won't see the end of this dish tonight in real time, but I just want to walk you through how you would do it. Okay, so we have this beautiful bed of onions. And now we're going to bring this over here. Let me bring the camera down for you. And we're going to get a little bit of, pretend this is olive oil. It's avocado. Totally fine. Like I said, even better for our hearts. And now you want the meat to be really tight because it's going to steam. That's how it's going to cook. So we want to just like get it all packed in here, okay? Usually I'm telling you to give it room so it can brown. That's not what we're going for here. Pack it in. And then we're even going to put the other onions. I'm just going to slice this one myself so I don't have to put it through the mandolin. Okay. Put it there. And then sprinkle these other onions on top, okay? And we're going to get lots of salt on this. And then we're going to Salt it. I think we're going to want at least a teaspoon of salt in this pot, maybe even more. If you think about this is like 3 pounds of meat. That's not that much salt. And then a little more oil. You don't need any stock. It's just going to be the juices from the meat itself, okay? Tight fitting lid, and into the oven it goes. I'm going to get myself a quick drink. If you guys need anything, I'm going to just go grab a sparkling water. We're going to pretend this is going in the oven, and then I'm going to check the potatoes, and I'll be right back. I've missed you guys. Right there. I'm coming back, I promise. You guys are going to crack up when I tell you what's happening in this house right now. Hold on one second. Let me get our potatoes. There's a game that all the seniors at my son's high school are playing, and I thought that they were here. It's hilarious. Have you guys heard about this game? I don't know what they're calling it. It's off campus that they're doing it, but kids have started doing it everywhere. It's like a senior year thing. I think they call it Assassins, and they don't play it with Nerf guns. They play it with these things with like these tiny pellets that you soak in water, and then they become like little bullets, but they're biodegradable. I saw them, and my first thing was like, we're killing the planet. But they have these teams, and so you can sign up as a team of 4, and any of the seniors can do it. And they're teams of 4, and you're assigned a different group each week, another group of 4, and you're basically supposed to hunt them. And then there's a different team hunting you, and then they keep eliminating people. And you're allowed to get kids outside of their own homes. You're allowed to get them anywhere except at school. You can't play at school, and you can't play. There's a well, no, you can play in their driveway, but they have all these crazy things. And so I'll be home, and you see that people are trying to hide in the bushes, literally, and tag your kid. So I just saw this car in our driveway, and I was like, oh my gosh, they're coming to try to tag him. And Charlie's not home right now. And so the hilarious part is that the parents have been really involved. And for some reason, the girls' parents, the girls' dads are like much smarter, or they're more involved in like hunting down the kids coming to the houses, trying to attack them. And so I said to Charlie, I was like, I too can help. And so I was just back in our office trying to see if these kids were coming in for the kill, but nope. Okay, hold on. Now it's potato time again. Oh, and look at this cabbage. This is perfect. You guys, the cabbage has been in for 16 minutes. So let me show you what happens. So gorgeous. And then I'll go grab the potato. But I want to show you this first. Can you see how wilted it gets? Let me get Tom's. This is so stunning. And the thing is, when it's crispy like this on the outside, it's amazing. So it's okay to flip it and then try to get some of the pieces that got more steamed than crunchy, expose them. I'm going to put it back in for like 2 minutes, and then just the smallest drizzle of balsamic vinegar is delicious on this. You don't need it, but yummy. Okay, put that back in, and let's check on our potatoes. They're so cute. Look at how cute they are. Aren't they adorable? So imagine them with herbs layered in there, right? Some work better than others, like thyme and rosemary, and bay leaves are great to cook the whole time because they look pretty and they kind of harden up, right? Whereas if you were to do basil or parsley, they're just going to kind of wilt. The other thing you could do for fun is lemon slices. That would be delicious too. Sorry, I'm just rolling them in their own oil a little bit. And oops, I opened that one too much, but I want to prick it with a skewer and see if it needs to cook longer. Let's see here. I'm just going to use like a cake tester skewer. Yeah, they're good. They're actually, they could go a few more minutes and they'll continue to open up a little bit more. If you want them to be really fanned, you can use your hands a little bit like I am and then put it back in the oven, right? So let me do that just for a few more minutes and we'll show you the finished product. And then, yeah, just the that cabbage gives off so much water that it there's the timer for the cabbage, that it kind of steams, right? So just by separating those leaves again, I'm just letting that water evaporate off the top and they'll crisp up a little bit. I forgot to get my water. Let's do like another 4 minutes. And we'll call that a day on the cabbage. Okay, so then the other thing I wanted to show you with the pot roast is that I've got this layered in with the onions and the meat, right? And you're going to cook this, and the same thing's going to happen. It's going to cook down considerably, and it will be so juicy just by cooking in its own juices. You'll be shocked. And I do it at 325, 350 for about 2.5 to 3 hours. I think it'll probably be extra delicious if I let it go closer to 3, but I don't even take the lid off for the first 2.5 hours. Then take it out, take the lid off and check and see if it's fork tender, falling apart. If it is, great. You can kind of toss the juices and the onions around, right? And then if you wanted to add any carrots, any quartered cabbage, any, what else do we have? Oh, you could do turnips. You could do potatoes, right? So big chunks of things and put them back in, put the lid back on. It's absolutely delicious. Give that like 30 minutes, okay? Again, you can let all of that sit, or you know what I like to do now that I'm saying it out loud with this dish, because there can be so much fat that comes to the top. I like to take it out, and you can do 2 things. You could, no, I would actually recommend keeping everything in and letting it cool and then scraping off that fat cap. The other option is you can take out the meat and the veggies and then strain the juices into a fat separator. That's kind of like the fastest way to do it, and the fat will come to the top there, right? So if you're in a hurry, you can do that. If not, I would let the whole thing cool, put it in the refrigerator overnight, and then when you wake up in the morning, there's that cold fat cap, and you can scrape it right off in the mornings, right? So both versions of these, the pot roast or the brisket, are amazing recipes to eat once and then enjoy more throughout the week. And the one for the pot roast, you can you could do 6 pounds of meat in this size pan. You could just do 2 layers of the pot roast, and it's great if it's packed in there. You just want to make sure you leave like this much space at the top where there isn't any onion or food, because the level of the fat will rise considerably up the sides. So you want to be careful as that fat renders off, okay? So this is what I'm doing for my St. Patrick's Day. And I would love to hear if you guys have questions about other recipes or if there's anything else you're making. Do you even celebrate St. Patrick's Day? I am not a big St. Patrick's Day go out and drink person. Big shocker as I drink my sparkling water. I did St. Patrick's Day one time in San Francisco when I moved here, and it was down in the financial district where everybody drinks green beer, and it was fun, but that's all I needed. I had my share. If I lived in Chicago, I might be more fun, right, with the whole Green River and everything. So I don't do anything big. I think is it Saturday? Is it going to be Saturday? I'm actually having lunch with friends at a fantastic restaurant that day. So we'll see what they're serving up for St. Patrick's Day, but I kind of love that I won't be out that night, you know. KQ, we can't wait to hear about your urban farm to table class. That's going to be amazing. And yes, Utah is so gorgeous. It's such a beautiful drive, no matter where you are in Utah. Such beautiful parts, you know, and the sunsets are amazing. Okay, let's get the cabbage out and take a look at that, shall we? And the potatoes. The moment of truth. Oh my gosh, it looks silly, but now you guys can see that was like a half a head of green cabbage and about a half a head of red. And this is not going to serve that much, but it is gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous when they're this crispy. Can you see that? They're stunning. And I'm telling you, cabbage has never tasted so good. Let's get the potatoes. We're going to play pretend here for a second. We're going to like make a plate of Irish food. And we're going to pretend it has a couple other things with it, okay? So let's do this. I am going to take a potato. I'm going to set it on a plate. And then I'm going to serve myself some of this gorgeous cabbage. I'll show you the finished plate, okay? But you guys have to go with me, and that we're going to pretend I have chimichurri sauce or some sort of sauce to drizzle over all of this. Oops. I like the crispy ones the best. Give me more crispy cabbage, right? Yeah, the potato seriously needs like some sort of a kick for color. If we made chimichurri, it would be delicious on it. And then let's get a little bit of the brisket and the veggies. I am so not hungry for this. I've been cooking so much today. But you'll get the gist of a beautiful St. Patrick's Day meal and some of these great veggies. I really need parsley, but I don't have any. So, oh well. But we're going to get more carrots. And then some of these gorgeous pan juices. Let me get a spoon for those, and I'll show you the final. I'll show you the final pretend plate. How's that? Get a little ladle out here. Okay. If I can do this. Some of these gorgeous juices. Ooh, the juices on the potato would be delicious too. And on the cabbage, right? This is my kind of St. Patrick's Day meal. And you know what? This is super low maintenance. All you have to do is pretend with me that there's some beautiful green chimichurri sauce on it, or sprinkled with parsley. If you wanted barbecue sauce on this, like I said, that'd be delicious as well. But this cabbage on its own is amazing. Amazing, amazing. Let's just turn that in a little bit like that, right? Beautiful. You guys, I feel like we're mastering these classes. They don't take as long as they used to. But does anybody have questions, comments, thoughts? Looks amazing. Yay, Holly, I'm so glad. I cannot wait to start doing some new recipes with you all. Like I said, we roasted whole fish in Bali, and although I have recipes for whole fish, and we did my recipe for the sauce I do with it that's got like currants and capers and herbs and garlic. It's really delicious. But then we roasted whole fish as well, and we stuffed it with citrus and herbs, and we cooked that in banana leaves. And you didn't even need a sauce to go with it. But I think what I'm going to do is also work on a branzino recipe, um, barramundi, it can be as well, and make this like Balinese salsa to go with it. We'll call it, the chef called it a salsa too. It's just a bunch of chopped delicious things, aromatics that would be so good. So I think the next class coming up is brunch, right? That Caitlin is going to teach. And what else? I will be posting a new class. I know I've been talking about teaching that Sunday school class where we do a meal planning class on a Sunday, and I teach you how to do like 3 recipes that kind of go together that you can make all at once. So stay tuned for when I do that. And I think that's all I've got right now. We were going to give wellness camp a break because I do think that it's a lot. Yeah, I think we kind of all got, well, I could do it every day of my life, but I just don't think I'm going to have the turnout to do it all the time, right? So I think I'll reboot that for May, let's say. I'll do another one in May. So that's it. Yeah, the cabbage, Holly, is like the best thing ever. I swear, especially with the way you cook. Your food's beautiful, by the way. It's so delicious and it's so easy. I mean, I could just eat it with my fingers right here. I'm just trying to be a little more polite than I typically am. So, friends, I hope you're all doing great. I hope you have a fabulous St. Patrick's Day if you celebrate. If not, have a great weekend. And thanks for hanging out with me again. I've missed you all. You have to do it tomorrow. Yeah, it's delish. Always. And you guys, I'll cook the pot roast tonight too, and I'll take pictures of that. I'll probably show it on Instagram later. Okay. So everybody have a delightful night, and I'm just so happy to be back with all of you. Bye. Happy cooking and happy eating. See you.